Sangye. Chanchu Vardu Dagni Gyatsuchi Dagi Chenyen Give Sanam Ki Jola Venchir Sangye Juparsho Sangye Chulang Sogi Shonam La Janchu Bardu Dagni Kyapsuchi Dagi Chenyen Gibe Sanam Ki Jola Venchir Sangye Juparsho Sangye Chulang Sogi Shonam La Janchu Bardu Dagni Kyapsuchi Dagi Chenyen Gibe Sanam Ki Jola Benshir Sangye Jubar Sho.
Thank you, Dr.
So, whoops.
I just sent everybody next text. So.
The three questions kind of work together. Could be kind of confusing, but just to let you all know, Erin got all three of them last night.
So if you don't get them,
But she's smarter than everybody.
Yeah,
else,
right.
So.
So what do you telling us?
if you don't get them, no complaint. It can be done.
Yeah, just don't complain at me.
You know where to get tutoring from.
If you don't get them, complain to your elected representative. According to a major proponent of
Well, I went to my Congress member. He said, quote, I'd like to help you, son, but you're too young to vote. Sorry.
you cannot have a subject in the debate about emptiness. Who is this proponent and what is his reasoning for this claim?
Because it can.
You know him already.
Because you
Can't
never
agree
argue
with
about the
that.
same thing. You never argue about the same subject.
I don't think
'Cause you can't
this
see the
is
same
right,
subject.
You
dude.
can't agree on.
Well, you didn't hear the answer.
Well,
I mean, you can't see the
I
same.
don't think that
You don't
he
think the
says that.
question's even right.
That's the problem.
Well, according to the other text that we found,
We
it
say that
wasn't-
he's implying that, but he doesn't say that. He doesn't say you can't have.
No, you're right, and we're going to kind of go into it a little bit, and it's not totally clear. I agree. So we'll look.
We accuse him of essentially saying
Right.
that, but he would certainly not say that.
So Master Bhavya Viveka is the proponent,
Mhm.
and his reasoning is that anything that is mentioned is just a conventional object and
Yeah.
cannot exist ultimately. So it can't be that something that two people in the debate about emptiness could discuss, or at least we're saying that he's saying that, implying
Right. He would
that.
say the opposite because he very much believes that you can have a subject, which is part of what makes him run Cuba.
Right. Huh. All right, let's see if my other homework questions then are obsolete. well, this one's not so bad.
What object does he use to prove that things could not start?
Let's see the beginning. Eyes.
Yeah. But everybody knows it, you know. Right? 'Cause, I want to let the rest of the class think about it.
She can be
We're
our
all
elected
here.
Yeah, I
representative.
know. But
We
they,
elect you, representative.
he was
Faculty.
he was talking about the eyes and meaning the sense powers, that they're not ultimate. And what's his point in proving that they're not ultimate? And I think they do accuse him of saying this.
They're what we perceive the object, therefore.
No, and I'll
It's not-
just. This is too confusing. I
We're
understand.
not trying to prove existence or non-existence.
He's saying that things that those things which aren't ultimate cannot be the object of unmistaken perception. They cannot be the object of an unmistaken perception. Basically, his point is that, or what they're saying. His point is. Well, it comes in the next question.
Nice point.
You don't think so?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't-
If we look, when we look back at the text, which I guess we're going to do. By the way, this was coming from the text that we were looking at as sources. They weren't. This wasn't directly from Gyaltsab Je. This was from the Mongolian scholar. Was it Chujing Palden? No. Yeah. And so let's see if this ties it together. What interesting premise is implied by the master's assertions? Just going to the answer. any perception of a non-Arya believes its object to be self-existent. So basically he's saying that anytime you're looking at something that's not ultimate, you're thinking that if you're not an Arya, or you're not in the direct perception of experiences, you think that that thing exists from its own side. And because you think that,
You're mistaken.
that you're mistaken, that those things cannot be the object of an unmistaken perception. And because of that, there could be no Chuchen.
Right.
That seemed to be where the text was going.
Mhm.
And you're right that maybe he wasn't saying it directly. A lot of it was implied by what we were accusing him of.
Yeah, I mean, right. He would say that they can agree on a Chechen.
They can. You're saying
Yeah,
he
he
would
would
say
have
that.
to say that they
Yeah,
can.
because he's debating.
Because he said you can use independent reasons.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right. So there has to be an ability to debate. If you can use a reason, because a reason's part of
Right,
debating.
which totally depends on the fact that they can have a shared Chechen.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we're.
Didn't we end it by saying you can say that there can't be a shared Chechen, or you can say that there's. You have to choose between that and reasons that are self-powered.
Yeah, we were
Choose
kind of.
between one or the other.
Mhm.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we were ending the class
Yeah.
on that.
That it right. That he's saying right. We're kind of making that argument, I think, right? That
I
if
think so.
he says that there is such a thing as a self-powered reason, and he says that you necessarily perceive the object wrong.
Right, and then we're saying you can't have both.
Right.
Like either there's a self-powered
Uh-huh.
reason,
Yeah.
or we're not perceiving the object right. And we're about to, like the suspense is now building for what's going to happen. For those of you who can follow
Keep going.
what we're talking
So you
about.
can't have a correct perception of anything other than ultimate reality.
Uh-huh, yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Right. Uh-huh. Right.
So you're saying you can't have your cake and eat it too, although I do sometimes.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
What? You told me she won't let you eat cake.
Actually, she tried to tempt me last night. And I refrained
Ice cream.
from ice cream.
Wow.
Churwa.
That's an exception.
Churwa.
Mix out. Say mix out.
Mixa, yeah.
Yeah. A loud
What did you call
exception.
it? Mixa? Absolution? No. Shake my head hard.
What do you call that? Mix out. Special case.
Yeah. I thought you said
An
absolute.
exception.
How do you spell that?
What?
Mix up.
It's the DMIGS GSAL. Yeah.
GSA clear.
It might not be a GS. It might be a G. I don't know. I can look it up for you.
What's
You don't
Churwa?
have to hide one, do you? They'll give you an example.
Just engage the
Churwa.
word in this.
Is this spread as in like ancillary or tangential?
No, that's
No. Okay.
This is
Okay.
true.
Oh, true.
True.
Mistaken.
No,
Mistaken.
not gonna have it for me.
Yeah, the same tool though, because for magic as well.
Oh, is it?
Oh,
Okay.
True core.
TuneCore.
Oh,
Yeah, it is.
Cool.
Machine.
Just yeah,
True core in Tantra yoga. It's called true core.
the inner one.
the mystic machine.
Machine of the body.
Or magic bulb.
Mistaken wheel.
This one was not in the last class, but I couldn't, I only had a couple lines in the last couple days, so I just had to pick something that I thought would be fun for us all to learn that you guys probably aren't going to remember.
The position. One position. Young.
It came in the list of 10.
Whether shared. Oh, this is whether or not they can share a position. It's
No,
no.
it's one of the other ones. It's asserting things by exclusion. Young
Really?
yeah.
Oh, young
Young
are part of the.
That's a position. Taking a position where you can assert things by exclusion.
Oh, whether or not we assert things by exclusion. Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
It kind of relates to what we're working on.
Oh yeah, and then
That's
it show
the
from
same
to
thing.
yeah.
Maybe, kind of.
You're
It's
not
not the
including
same, no. But I think it's related.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. it is.
But they had
Especially
there was a
from top.
separate, one of the list was a separate one for that, but I think it's probably the same thing, as far as I can understand it. It is.
Drum shot.
If you guys don't know this one after Ben's class, then we're in trouble.
Never heard of him.
Yeah.
What? Yes, thank you. Baba Viveka.
Baha.
Bahava Viveka.
Bahava Viveka.
Bahava Viveka.
And if you want to get fancy, Sanskrit V's are more slurred to W. Baba Viveka.
Okay, you take the plane again.
Okay, I'm still trying to find this stupid website, but I'm so sorry, but
Did you send the,
I did.
okay.
Anyway, I'm working on it.
Cool.
I think I ended up asking Art the last time the same thing.
People find it nowhere.
Search your email.
I did.
Funny.
I couldn't find it. Yeah.
I know.
It's amazing that no one talked about it, you know. This thing is irritating. Open.
Oops. What the heck is this?
Okay. I'm frustrated by your text because
That's very comforting to me.
no, I feel like it's some subject that he knows very, very well, and he's not explaining it, and I don't know it that well. So I feel more comfortable with an appendix,
Yeah.
and maybe for all the differences between the Prasangika, and because it wasn't very satisfying to me. We had 3 or 4 lists, but we didn't learn anything. We just got lists, and they're all spread out in Tsongkhapa.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, as they come in Gyaltsabje, we appendicize them. Appendix?
All into the same appendix that we've already started.
Or we just, I don't know. Yeah, but anyway, I think inside of Gyaltsabje's text, you're not going to get a good explanation of these 8.
Yeah.
And there's nobody who went through them one by one and explained them discreetly. So you're probably going to have to take pieces out of,
Tsongkhapa and others.
yeah, to who has the best explanation of them.
Okay.
Right now, the Mongol scholars doing
Right.
pretty well.
Wow.
So I did 2 things about your text. I went back to get more detail on the Mongol scholars thing, you know?
The one we were discussing.
Yeah, because I'm not satisfied with it. I think, am I in the right text? Yeah. I'm not satisfied with what we got so far. So I'm kind of beefing it up.
Cool.
Yeah.
I see all these notes that you pasted in here.
These are new notes. Yeah.
Jason Kappa. Whoa.
Yeah, now it's about 10 pages of notes. But I have a smaller point to cover before that. He keeps spelling Rigmor
Right. All right.
with an S, which bothered you, and then because it bothered you, it started to bother me. From my upbringing in the monastery, it's Rigmor without the S. But he keeps repeating it, so it's not like it's not a typo. He believes it, and he's Gyaltsabje. So I went and did a statistical count. Here's the vote: 40 to 33.
Ooh.
Thing.
That's like doesn't help anything.
Not at all.
That just throws it all into confusion, you know. So generally, when you say ngo la, it's to a state of mind. You wouldn't say ngo la to a syllogism. See, it has to be a person, or it has to be a mind to which an idea makes its appearance. You see, that's the idea. So technically, riksngo doesn't make any sense because riks means syllogisms. So syllogisms don't think. So you can't say to the mind of a syllogism. You cannot say riks ki ngor. It has no sense at all.
Right.
Okay. But what I found was Jetson Kappa saying Rikpe Riksngor.
So a mind that's using reasoning
Yeah,
to a logical. So it was kind of what I thought last.
it is kind of what you thought.
Yeah.
So I went to find. Here's a whole section from Tsongkhapa from illumination, where he uses ngor over and over.
Rick Moore.
Many ngors. So I just read it to you quickly, okay? Well, what the heck is that? Although the body and mind of a person don't exist by nature, they do exist, even according to the parlance of the world. Jingtengi Ngo, to the mind of a normal person in the world, they are, if you just restrict yourself to what appears to normal people's minds, I'm talking about them. More, now he has another more. Now, if you talk about the conventional perceptions of people of the world, you can talk about Majjhimikas, and now he's got another one. To the what is accepted, to the accurate perceptions of conventional accurate perceptions. Okay. Damchu Chiki. Now he uses Riks more. So he's got 3 ngors already.
Oh, different than Seme.
Yeah. Seme ngor is fine.
Yeah.
Because it's presenting itself to an accurate perception. Tanyegi ngor is okay, presenting itself to a conventional perception. But a Riks ngor is uncomfortable. Okay? But here he says, I think he's saying Dundam Chujeki Rik ngor, to the mind which is considering arguments for emptiness.
Wow.
Riks ki Rik. Okay? So there's a Riks ngor. Jetsun Kappa uses the S, so it's not a mistake. Okay?
Yeah.
Shengor. Now he uses Shengor. I'm just saying he's got like 7 ngors here. Shengor means...
to others.
Yeah, in other people's minds, you could accept that. Okay? So there's got that ngor.
Shengor.
Has he got another ngor in here?
Shenor again. Shengor.
Yeah, to other people's perceptions. Okay? It applies to other people's perceptions. So, but he does use GS. Now here's Tsongkhapa again. In the illumination again. Singor. That's okay. To the perceptions of this person.
Sorry again, where is it?
To the way...
First line.
Singor.
Oh, single.
Oh.
You know, that goes okay. To their eyes, to what they see. Okay, that's okay. But yeshe dengor, to that wisdom. You see, that's a state of mind. I'm comfortable with it. Okay. Lo konengor, only to the mind. That's okay with me.
Here's another Rick's note.
I'm comfortable with the Riks.
There it
You
is.
see. Yeah, you don't you chen ki chaji ni ringor majopa sheno.
So it must be a mind operating logically.
No, I think it's logic. Yeah, to a mind which is considering arguments in favor of or against self-existence. I'll take it that way. There was someone...
I can imagine logic as a subject.
So I'm going to accept it as a mind in a logical mode or something.
Yeah.
Okay, who's thinking logically, and 99% of the time it's about reasons to prove emptiness.
Right.
Okay.
Which is what our text is about. So.
Okay. Now we had last time gone through.
Our list of 10.
We were kind of footnoting something. Okay, and we had gotten
Our list of
this far.
candidates.
Did we, Shenyang? No.
No.
Okay.
We stopped
here.
at
No.
Uh-oh. Are we talking about being in the footnote?
Yeah, we're still in the footnote.
Around
What did it? Where did
This
it?
is decidedly appendix.
Oh, I don't know where.
No, the page numbers have changed. Trust me.
Yeah, I gotta go back to an older
Decidedly
version of the text that I have here. Oh, I have
of your what you quoted, unless you quoted different.
Did we stop at Dekonar?
We were in the Great
You were just
Vipassana.
about to get there.
Oh no. Yeah, we just hit Dekona. Dekona Lodger.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we stopped at Dekonar.
Yep.
Here. We stopped here.
See,
Yeah.
Senor.
Yep.
And we were working our way through Noam Pelda's discussion.
Yep.
I went back to his discussion. And if we added more to his discussion, your discussion would be much more beautiful.
Footnotes.
But it's a lot. Okay,
Let's do it.
so if you're up for it, it's an appendix size now. It's not footnote anymore. Okay, so if you're up for it, we do a much longer thing.
Let me check
with
my
him.
lawyer.
That's an appendix to the footnote.
Step with your lawyer.
No.
No, we're going to do an appendix in general instead of a footnote.
Oh,
The
okay.
footnote will say
It's
there's-
gonna slow him down by a couple months.
Yeah.
But it'll make the book bigger.
I think it's a
and
good idea.
My
A
attorney
fatter
approves.
book. It'll be a fatter book.
I can't say, but off the record. So we can do-
Don't hold me to it.
So I added more in front of what we've already done.
Cool.
Okay, from the same author,
Right.
and I prefer it.
Cool.
Because I'm still not satisfied. And I learned a lot when I read it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I learned a lot of what I thought he was saying about the Chuchen, about two people seeing the Chuchen the wrong way. It's not what you think. Whose position is is about reverse from what you thought.
Okay.
If
So
you read the whole thing,
I don't know if you
okay?
heard my homework questions, but I'm guessing they were all wrong then.
Probably. Okay, so here we go.
Boots to boot.
It starts with Nipa, okay? And
This is something that you pasted in
look up the Nipa and you'll find it.
in the most
Around
recent
page
version.
58.
Yeah, the one I just sent you,
Okay, sorry. Let me just go.
which is about 10 pages longer now.
Yes, sir.
It's a long argument, but I don't think you can understand Chechen to no one unless you read this, and it's gonna surprise you, which it did when I was sitting outside the Rimrock coffee shop at 6:15.
Are we sure we're on the same version? Because
Does it say 522? GMR 522?
yeah, it's called GMR 522, but
Look
it doesn't,
up the
doesn't have on
NEPA.
page 58. NEPA.
What do you mean, page 58?
Here says 58 on the bottom.
Oh, I don't know. Look up the Nipa. Maybe your word is
Nipa, you
displaying.
see that?
Look up the
You're not gonna find another
Nipa.
instance of that, I hope.
I hope not.
Where? Oh, that's a good idea. Gotcha.
Look up that.
Okay.
What honestly doesn't fit in.
There you go.
The good, the bad,
One
and
of
the
these
Nipa.
words doesn't belong. Got it.
Maybe your pagination is different. Or
Yeah,
something.
slightly.
Its word does that,
Okay.
depending on your margins. Okay, as you'd expect. Okay, Nipa. Now, he doesn't say what the Nipa is. I went and got it for you. Okay?
Okay, thanks.
So just read and let's relax and slow down even more than we slowed down before. Okay?
Loosen the belt.
Zumba.
Starts with
Phil, tell me he's pronouncing it wrong.
Wei Dawei Shabki Kyundida Tamcheni Rikpama Ian Parko Chaki Tongo.
Okay, you can translate that if you guys work on it.
Thirdly,
According to
Dawei
Mr. Chandra.
Shabki, yeah, according to
Why Shub?
because we're being honored.
Yeah, high honorific.
Yeah,
At the holy feet of Chandakirti.
by the
Yeah.
toes of Chandakirti. Kyundida
That wasn't very respectful. All right. By the way, we do have to be careful in class not to,
Sorry.
it's kind of a bad Munjuki Bakchat. Okay.
Oh, we
Sorry
can
to-
see these.
Although I'm the one who does it as much as anyone.
We can
Well-
see these problems with logic.
Yeah. Mayim Parko Chak.
This Rixba means correct. Or,
Okay.
yeah,
We can see that,
Not
that these are
correct.
not
incorrect, improper almost, incorrect.
Can-
All of
these
these
problems.
problems, Koachak, us guys, we see
Incorrect.
are not correct.
And flawed.
Historically speaking, what's he probably talking about?
Independent reason.
Think about it.
I mean,
Think about it. Why did he write his book?
Oh, he was
oh, these
Against
problems.
Baba
Baba Viveka's
Viveka.
problem.
He was defending Buddha Palita
against.
against Baba
See,
Viveka.
the Baba
So if he
Viveka
said,
Squeaking.
you know, we understand that all these criticisms are incorrect.
Yeah.
He's probably talking about Baba Viveka.
Viveka's kyuns
Yeah.
are.
Okay, all the kyuns that Baba Viveka made against Buddha Palita are Rigpa Mayan, are not correct. Okay,
Cool.
She Sung So. So we're at this subject about the criticisms,
Yeah.
and then Dilani,
The three. Well,
the three criticisms don't apply. How the three criticisms don't apply, and
and we're going to refute the system.
we're going to
back
refute Baba Viveka.
Yeah.
So I'm skipping to that.
Yeah.
That's his nipa. The nipa is,
The refutation.
you know, refuting Baba Viveka.
Yeah.
Okay. So here we go.
No, sorry, that's not Chandrakirti talking. That's
Well, kind of.
he's saying that
Commenting on
Chandrakirti did that. Yeah.
Okay.
Are we quoting Chandrakirti still though in this?
This is Chujingo and Palden.
This is the Mongol
Yeah.
scholar.
Commenting
Good
on
guy.
Chandrakirti.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, he-
Which you should think about it. They were not writing in their mother tongue.
right.
They were writing in Latin.
Right.
Okay. And they're amazing. Okay. 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 Which gives us hope. It's as if we were writing commentaries in Tibetan. Their Tibetan was that good. And they're good. They're really good. Okay, Lasum.
Did we just change texts going from unbold to bold?
We just went.
Yeah,
to
I kind of left it that way because the Nipa is the text we're in. Nipa was said by the Mongol. This is all from the earlier pages.
Yeah, right. That's what I said.
So I didn't want you to get confused.
It's earlier in the.
His
text, right?
refutation of Baba Viveka, Sum.
Okay.
Third. Yeah. So this is the third part. That was the second part, right? Now we're at the third part.
Whoa.
We're
Yeah,
at the-
Oh, we're at the third part of the
which
second
has
part.
3.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're inside the refutation of Baba Viveka.
Got it.
Okay,
Assume.
go read. Tang Tang, you got the plane. Come on, wake up. Criticize him. Say something. It's not that.
Rangyu Ngok.
Call the phantom.
Rangyu Ngok Pe Rikpa Tong. Rikpa De Parol Pe.
Puh.
Pe.
But yeah.
Okay. Kyung Dun Gi.
Dun Ki.
Tong.
Make it longer. Dun Ki.
Kyunje Te Rangi. Chorwala Mi Tsung Pe Gu Tsen No.
Okay, good. Rangyu Gope Rikpa.
Okay,
The logic that refutes
Tantric.
the Svatantrikas and
Yeah, or it might be Svatantric reasons. You see, Rangyu Kitense.
Yes.
Okay, it might be. We don't know. Rikpa de Parupe Kyang Dunki Kelang Tsul.
The way in which
Why? Dun Ki, okay, idiom, amounts to. Amounts to. Okay, so why their position amounts to agreeing with us. It's very much the theme of the 60 verses. You see?
Wow.
The position you think disproves us, supports us. Okay? In effect, Dun Ki, you are accepting our position. Okay? Okay. Yeah, so Dun Ki is tricky here. Okay.
What's the paro thing there?
Paropa Kelen, you are agreeing with us.
Oh,
You know, your own logic,
yeah.
according to your own logic, you agree with us.
He's referring to the
Yeah.
Svatantrikas as paropos.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Okay, the logic you attempt to use against us supports us. Thank you. Okay? Okay? Kenji de rangi jola mitsumbigi to know why it is that these criticisms don't apply to our logic. Prasangika's logic. Why the criticisms we made against your forms of logic doesn't apply to our own forms of logic. But we're not going to go that far.
Chorwala Mitsung doesn't apply.
Yeah, Jorawa. No, here Jorawa means Jorawa is a synonym for syllogism. Unfortunately,
Oh, wow.
okay, Jorawa means syllogism in some cases. Sorry.
So Mitsung.
Tantik, Rigpa, Dark, Jorawa, same thing. unfortunately, talk and refer to the whole syllogism or the third part of the sentence. It's all messy.
Yeah.
Okay, and the Sanskrit doesn't help.
Did we
Okay,
translate that last sentence though?
yeah.
Change it.
Why are criticisms about your Rangyupa syllogisms are not equivalent to? They don't apply equally to our presentations of logic.
Oh, okay.
Our criticisms of your logic, lower middle way, don't apply to our logic, the logic that we use, prasangikas. Okay, probably, but we're not going to get that far. Okay, go.
Tangpola
By the way, it's complicated now, but I promise the material is going to make you happy. You're going to be happy we went back.
Thank you.
The introductory parts are a little messy. Okay, go ahead.
Ton tam pe kepar charwa don me par shepa che chen chi tam zin pe leng kak bao.
Okay, now, why it was Tun Mepa,
No me.
meaningless.
Yeah. No.
It's a strong criticism.
Yeah.
Tun Mepa means meaningless. Why it was meaningless, we're going to explain, Shepa, why it was meaningless to apply the distinction of saying ultimately.
Oh.
Okay, you using this extra word ultimately in these arguments is meaningless and even harmful.
Cool.
Okay, and then we're gonna refute their answer in which they talk about Minami. Okay,
Yeah,
Chuchenchi,
yeah.
you know, the restaurant in general. Okay, they're going to give some answer about restaurants in general, and we're going to say, no, that's still wrong. You're still wrong. Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Now I put these numbers to remember which section we're in.
Okay.
Okay. Obviously, those are not in the Tibetan. Here's the first one. The first one is a long explanation of why it's unnecessary for Lengdenje to keep putting in the adverb ultimately. Ultimately speak. We don't need that. Okay, here we go. And then I'm happy because we finally got the logical statement where the Chuchen is stated
Okay. Yeah.
for the first time. The Chuchen we're talking about.
The one that we keep saying.
The one we keep talking about, Tunangwa.
Yeah.
That's not talking about Chuchens in general.
Right.
It's talking about a specific argument that Baba Viveka gave.
About empty.
His Chuchen.
Yeah.
But it never repeats his Chuchen.
Right.
So finally we got the Chuchen.
Cool.
It's the Chuchen of a particular argument that he gave, and no one ever stated the whole argument except Noam Pelder.
Cool.
Okay, and I moved it. I just put returns to make it look like a classic syllogism.
Right.
Okay, and so you can't understand the difference between the two Madhyamika schools if you don't understand the 8 points on which they differ. One of the 8 points on which they differ is how they feel about Chuchen. Things that we take in an argument, things that we point to have an argument about. But they're talking about one argument historically.
Yeah.
Okay?
Wow.
That was between Baba Viveka and Chandrakirti. Okay? Essentially.
Yeah.
Not really. He came before.
Right.
He's dead and they're arguing about him.
Oh, okay.
Okay, he's long gone. No. Buddha Palita is long gone.
Right.
Then they're picking him over they're fighting over his body. Okay. So I made it into a logical statement. Okay, go.
Tundam parnan ki kechenam takle kewa me parngete jepe chir shepa yepa nishino shekapala.
Yeah, so in essence, he gives this argument. This is Baba Viveka. Consider the inner ayatanas, and in other places they say mik, etc.
That's what we came across.
Yeah, the optic nerve. Okay,
Yeah.
let's take. It's inner, by the way, but it's not awareness.
Yeah.
It's inner, but it's not
The
awareness.
power. It's the
Sense power,
Yeah.
the optic nerve.
wow.
Let's take things like the optic nerve. And let's talk about them ultimately speaking. He wants to start the sentence with ultimately speaking, the I and the other inner sense powers, dakle kewa mepange. It's definite
That they don't start
from
from
themselves.
themselves.
Okay?
They definitely don't start from
Because this is Bhava Viveka's argument.
yeah, because they exist.
This is Bhava Viveka probably thinking he's fighting Buddha Palita. It's his criticism to Buddha Palita. Okay? Yoga because they exist.
yeah.
If they exist, then ultimately speaking, they cannot come from themselves.
Themselves. Yeah.
And the Prasangika says you don't need to say ultimately.
Right.
And if you do say ultimately, it proves you don't know what you're talking about.
Right, because then you think
If you think we have to say ultimately,
yeah,
you're already wrong.
right.
Okay? Prasangika says to Rangyupa, we say to Bhava Viveka,
But there's no need to say ultimate.
just say nothing starts.
Yeah.
You don't have to go around saying nothing ultimately starts. If you think we have to add ultimately, you don't know what the Buddha was talking about in the first place. Okay? Scott added ultimately in the class downstairs. Who was there? And I corrected him
Yeah, that was.
yesterday.
Yeah.
I said, no, he's correcting me. I said, no. Dharmakirti said, don't say ultimately.
Chandrakirti.
They're supposed to get it without saying ultimately. Okay? Got it? Okay.
Kamala Shila doesn't use ultimate.
Say again?
Kamala Shila doesn't use ultimately either.
I don't remember. It's a long commentary. Okay. Shepa Yupinyi Shino. It's like the awareness. Okay, it's like the awareness. Because so far we're not talking about awareness, we're talking about physical neuroses. Okay?
But what is?
Yupinyi Shino.
It's like
This is his Tumpe Yang Dot. What's that? Judge Chen Mitate Chepiche. Perna Bumbashin.
oh, this is his example.
Correct.
Yeah, it always the fourth part of a syllogism.
Is an example.
Sound, Judge Chen, Mitat. It's changing because it was produced. It's like a coffee cup. Now, and this, why you say the fourth part, take Minami. We should go there because they have, what did I say yesterday?
Tempura.
Tempura. It's like that nice place in Flagstaff that you like. Okay? Now, the example is supposed to be something that the other guy agrees to.
That's manipulative.
Right? It's like that nice hotel in Flagstaff that has the Japanese food. And you like that place.
That doesn't freak
You see any- But what I'm saying about the example, is that it should be easily acceptable to the opponent. Yeah, I agree that's a nice place.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, got it?
So he's giving Shepa as an example of a Yupa.
It's his bumpa.
So
Yeah.
so Shepa is his example.
Yeah,
It's like
the fact. Like the fact.
that consciousness.
Also doesn't, no, it also doesn't grow from itself.
Like that existing thing that we call mind. Okay?
like
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just trying to say, when I say Shepa, I'm talking about Shepa as a Yupa.
Yeah.
Okay? He could have said Shepa Shin, but he's just nailing it down. Okay?
He
Okay.
used Yupe Cheer as a reason.
Now,
Shekupala. What's
Dawai
Kupala?
put forth an argument. Taksakupa
Oh,
takitsini.
that's the argument that he put forth.
Taksakupa takitsini.
It's a
The fourth part of the example.
The definition of a reason is anything your wife says.
anything. Duly noted.
Not takyan takitsini.
Yeah. It's not,
Well,
not
a little
necessarily
bit
correct.
that too.
Yeah. Takyan da means correct reason. But don't forget the definition of a reason in Buddhism is anything the guy says. And anything you make kanurina, ta yimbe kyop.
Whether it exists or not.
It can be used as a reason. Fish are fly in the sky because Rimrock has great restaurants. Many great restaurants. Okay? Is it a reason?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it any way good reason? No, it's totally bullshit, but it's a reason. You see? Okay? So kupa, taksu kupa, takitsini. Anything you put forth as a reason. So
This is what he put forth.
he has given this syllogism.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
He has given this
I
syllogism.
didn't know that word.
And in this syllogism, he meaninglessly added the word,
Tendampa.
he added the, what do you call it?
Qualifier.
The qualifier. Very good. He uselessly added the qualifier. Ultimately speaking, Okay?
Yeah.
The Buddha didn't want you to say that. He wanted to say, Big me, now me, na me, che me, lu me, yi me, su me, da me, ti me, ro me, rekta me do. Subway kong kong be so sluggish kong kong just. Yeah, he didn't go saying ultimately there's no eye, ultimately there's no ear, ultimately, hey, come on, we don't do that. Okay, all right. Dawai now, Dawai Shabki.
From the holy feet again of
Yeah.
Chandrakirti. Tela Tundampe Kepar Charwala Kupamete.
Translate just that much.
Okay, from the holy feet of Chandrakirti. That the ultimateness of that.
No,
We don't
the
need
qualifier.
To, we don't need to apply. Oh, there is no need to apply the qualifier
Ultimately,
ultimately.
or ultimately speaking.
Yeah, to that
Good. Yeah, in your syllogism.
in your syllogism.
You just say Gewamete.
Kewamete. Right.
Nothing
things
starts.
Yeah.
You don't say nothing starts, ultimately speaking.
Consistency
Okay.
stems from itself.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, that's an. Anyway, stick to it. Stay with me.
Cool.
Okay. Who's complaining and who's not? Who's the complainer? Who's criticizing?
Chandrakirti.
Kadichari saying to Bhalavika, come on, man, you don't have to add ultimately to everything.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that. Okay? Because now he gives two reasons why you didn't have to do that, Bhalavika. Okay, what? Chula jana yang gupa me.
Because there's no need.
There's no need to apply it to the ch,
to the subject.
and there's no need to apply it to the ch chen. Okay, to the ch and the ch chen.
No need to apply it to the reason, and there's no need to apply it to the subject.
For this, you got to appreciate the reason for the word ch chen.
Right. It's the thing that
What's
holds,
ch chen mean?
The quality.
holds the
Something which has a quality.
yeah.
It's the literal meaning of the word ch chen.
Chichen.
The subject under consideration, which is what is sometimes called, take the minami. Let's consider minami. Let's take this cup. The thing you want to talk about, okay, is called ch chen. Why? Because it's a thing that has a certain quality that you're trying to prove.
Right.
So the quality you're trying to prove about it is called dupjecha.
Wow. So that's the assertion. Yeah.
I believe he has shortened it here to ch.
Yeah, it seems so.
You don't have to add it to the ch-chen, and you don't have to add it to the dupjecha. You don't have to add it to the first element of the syllogism, and you don't have to add it to the second syllogism, because he added it to the first one, oddly. He didn't say, ultimately speaking, it doesn't start. He says, ultimately speaking, comma, the I, ch-chen. He very, what do you call it, clumsily added it to the minami. You see, ultimately speaking, let's consider the I, ultimately speaking.
Yeah.
Okay?
Because Dhamma.
It doesn't start,
Because Dhamma.
it doesn't start, okay? Because the Buddha said, consider all things, they don't start.
Yeah.
So he rewrote it. Ultimately speaking, all things consider. They don't start. Then Chandrakirti says, look, you don't have to add that to the first element, by the way, and you don't have to add it to the second one either. It's useless.
He said it the other way around.
He
though.
did.
And he didn't seem to add it to the second element in the way we're looking at the syllogism, right? It's just implied that.
Well, I believe that Ngawang Pelden called it the dupjecha, the quality to be proven,
Right.
whether or not it starts. Okay, you don't have to add it to the first part of the syllogism, which is ch-chen.
Right.
And you don't have to add it to the second part of the syllogism, which is born or started.
Right.
Okay,
And he
that
put something, right.
okay.
Yep. Yeah.
His chichen doesn't exist.
That's a whole nother subject. Okay, double dupte. Okay, I'll say why it doesn't. You don't need to say ultimately when you say it starts. You don't have to say, let's consider the I. It doesn't start ultimately. Okay, two choices here.
Right.
Ultimately, let's consider the I from an ultimate point of view.
Yeah.
That's the chichen. It doesn't start speaking ultimately. That's when you add it ultimately to the second element. Okay, so we're going to start with the second element. Okay, now the first means the second.
Yeah.
So you don't have to add the word ultimately speaking to the word
Start.
good, nice,
Yeah.
start. Okay, Bhava Viveka, look, you don't have to add ultimately to the word start. Okay, why?
Because they're not.
Ngaro latuna yang gupame. It's meaningless according to the person making the argument.
Yeah.
Chigo latuna yang gupame. It's meaningless according to the person listening to your argument. Jingtemba latuna yang gupame bichar. And no one in the world would need it anyway.
No one in the world would.
No one in the world talks like that. It's meaningless to the guy starting the argument. It's meaningless to the guy
Listen.
answering in the argument. And it's meaningless to whoever would hear
The
it.
waiters.
Okay. It's in the whole world, nobody goes around saying, ultimately speaking, I'm typing on my computer. Ultimately speaking, I'm drinking Ben's awesome coffee. Ultimately speaking, come on, nobody does that.
I wish we had this at
Doesn't
Diamond
it
Mountain.
use like training wheels to create
Yeah, it could be. I mean, you could defend it, but we're not gonna. Okay,
It would
go.
be so fun to pull this out into the big round and ask
Yeah.
someone.
Yeah. Then I could take this.
Oh, you support Bobby Viveka, huh?
Nipa trupte. Tempa nile nyampe mute.
Wait, not Dumbo Drupte.
Oh, I thought we already covered that one.
No.
Okay. Tangpo trupte. Ngago umape dake kunsob tu yang kema langpe chir.
Okay, good. This is very profound and very difficult.
Uh-huh.
Who is the Ngago in this argument?
Well,
It's, the upper middle way. Buddha Palita. Really?
defending
It's really.
Oh, it's Baba Vivek.
No, it's, you don't even have to say. All Madhyamikans are supposed to be able to say, let's take this glass. It doesn't start because it exists.
Okay, sure.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's he's talking about a proof that would be acceptable to any Madhyamikan.
Uh-huh.
Okay? So, Ngago, assuming the Ngago is, by the way, the opponent, when the Buddha says, look, nothing starts, who's the opponent?
Those who hold to things as exist. The Mutek, but
Stream stool, the stream steps,
yeah, non-Buddhists.
Yeah.
non-Buddhists.
Right, yeah, the guys.
People who think if you sit down in the Ganga, you will get enlightened.
God,
That's right.
Yeah,
Okay, anyway, I've been there.
because we don't accept
The arms are floating by.
Didn't do the truth.
We don't accept things starting from themselves.
Okay, so the classical argument that they're both arguing about is the argument that the Buddha gave to the non-Buddhists. Take all things. They don't start from themselves. They don't start, sorry. Big mistake. Because they
It says
exist.
that.
It does say from
The Buddha said it to non-Buddhists, okay? The Chigo is, who's the Chigo?
the non-Buddhists.
Good, Mutekpa. Who's the Ngago?
The Umapa.
Who's the Targo?
That's the Nago.
Yeah, dang. Okay, Damadripte. If the Ngago is the Umapas,
Yeah.
is a Madhyamikan, they don't even accept that a cup could start deceptively speaking.
Right.
So why would they have to add ultimately?
Got it. Ke kunso
Don't they?
yang kemalang chip. Because they don't accept that it could start to something.
This is very profound. Okay, Chandakirti is saying, look, if you're a Madhyamika, you don't accept any kind of birth.
True.
You don't have to add ultimately,
True.
because even if you don't add ultimately, we would agree. Is it true that nothing starts? Yes.
And it does
Do
say,
you have to say ultimately? No, we're Madhyamika. We don't even believe it. We don't even believe it could start on a conventional level.
Why are you
shying away from
aggressively avoiding the word dog?
yeah, that seems to be okay too.
Oh yeah, you can say doc.
It's not
Okay.
ultimately.
Because it's almost saying like ultimately, because doc means ultimately already, and Jetson Kopp is famous for adding the qualifier back in.
Self from
So
itself.
he's saying ultimately.
That's what we're
He's saying
arguing.
ultimately it doesn't ultimately start from itself, because he's saying ultimately it doesn't start from itself. So it's like, okay, you already said.
I'm sorry. I'm corrected. Dake, something starting in and of itself doesn't exist,
Yeah.
even
Right.
conventionally.
So they're keeping that in there. Yeah.
Okay,
That makes
that's
sense.
okay.
Yeah, it seems.
But it's not as strong.
So it's not the Heart Sutra.
Okay. Anyway, Dake, yeah, okay. But they don't say anything in the
He
syllogism.
does. He totally does.
No, here.
Show me the syllogism.
Here, that's. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm corrected. Totally corrected. Okay. Things don't start from themselves. The cup doesn't start from itself. Okay?
Yep.
Nipa Drupte.
Second, it's the second part of the.
So Madhyamikans don't need any ultimately, because we already say from itself.
So it's redundant
Yeah.
at the least. It's redundant at the least.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then
Right.
the Mutekpas don't need it.
Huh?
Why not?
Because they deny the two truths.
Well, because they believe things come from.
Their opinions already mess with conventional reality.
Mess with.
If you follow them, you've already denied conventional reality.
Is
Also,
that what it's saying?
yeah, Demba Nyi Le Nyam, they have degenerated from both realities
Both realities.
already. Okay, before the argument was made.
Chango.
Okay, Mutak Ni Den Nichar, from the point of view of both realities,
They
Gokpa,
It's denied.
you could deny them from either point of view. You could deny. For example, they say that the cause of the cup was always in the cup before it started, and it just the result. The result of a glass cup was already in the factory before it was made,
Right.
because the potential was there.
Right.
They say a finished jar was already there, and then it was revealed. Okay. A corn cob was already in a seed corn
Non-Buddhists.
under the ground. It was already there, and then it just got revealed. Okay, so even if we're not talking about ultimately speaking,
Yeah.
they're already wrong. Okay,
Yeah.
so you don't have to say ultimately speaking for them, because whether or not you say ultimately, they're already wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, got it?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're out of time.
Now, how about the normal world?
Yes. Oh, so much.
This basically says they don't worry about it. The Dakle. They don't worry about the
They're not thinking
Dakle.
about the self.
You don't have to use ultimately
Self-
for the word,
Yeah.
because he doesn't need your.
Whether things arise from themselves
Yeah.
or whether things arise from something else, they don't They don't
examine-
care.
Yeah, they're not.
They just want the food. They don't care how it grew. Okay, so it's unnecessary from their point of view to say ultimately.
Yeah.
The Buddhists don't want it. The non-Buddhists don't want it, and the people who don't care about Buddhists or non-Buddhists, they don't want it either. Maybe you shouldn't have said it. Okay, got it? By the way, now that we understand, now he nails down what dark means in the syllogism.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
cool.
Yeah.
It's not self-existent.
Yeah.
It's specifically the opening lines of wisdom. Things don't grow from themselves. Things don't grow from other things. So when he says self here in the syllogism, he's not saying self-existently. He's saying from themselves.
From themselves. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Different.
Cool.
Different thing. He doesn't mean from a self-existent nature. He means from themselves. They don't go from themselves,
Right.
and they don't go from other things.
Oh, I see. It's
Babies are not born from themselves, neither are they born from their mother.
How is not themselves and not self-existently
different.
different?
Yeah, it's kind of subtle, right?
Without your seeds.
Which one?
It's about the observer, right?
If it had meant Rangshinki by nature, if Dak here meant Rangshinki, that's what it means naturally, by itself, but not from itself. You see what I mean?
The focus is on your seeds, not
This is Mushi Kengoku Rukpa.
Yeah, the only
Mushi Kengoku Rukpa.
subtle difference.
Do things arise from
Right.
themselves,
So it's in.
or things arise from something else, or
Or
things
both.
arise from both, or things arise from neither. But the self, when they say self, they're not talking about a self-existent self. They just mean from yourself. Was the boy born from the boy? It doesn't mean was the boy born without seeds.
So it's just in the context
See what I mean?
of those four permutations.
Yeah, it's not dark in the sense of Rangshin. It's dark in the sense of not Shen.
Self-nature, not other.
Rang, it's dark in the sense of Rang. It's
And if you broke it down.
By the way, which of the
Yeah.
four is nominally okay? Born
From
from
others.
yeah, born from something else,
Yeah.
from a seed. Okay, nominally that's okay. Okay.
And this is why we accuse them of accepting a nominal self-existence.
That's another deal.
Okay.
That's some kind of Yanda Kunzo, you mean?
Tanya Tenda, we say that they accept a nominal ultimate nature, which they sort of just implied in this syllogism.
I don't know. I'm not sure
You're talking about
what that
existing
means.
by definition?
This is Palampur.
Under Kinderguration.
Oh.
So anyways, we didn't get to the Chechen yet.
Okay.
We just got to him saying ultimately. But
Right, we're just talking about the assertion so far. The Drupe Che, right?
yeah, but the ultimately is going to affect the Chechen.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so just be ready for that. Okay.
Geshe,
This is hard
for
stuff.
the sake of everybody, could you summarize this class?
Okay.
The brave ones.
For the sake of the world.
Thank
For the sake of in YouTube land.
Yeah, I will. Nagarjuna wrote a book called The 60 Verses, in which he sought to prove to the lower school that in the sutras which Buddha taught just for them, he did present emptiness. Okay, and then he started to argue about, and so in that way, he's saying a strange thing about the difference between the higher schools and the lower schools. The lower schools got the information and misunderstood it, but it's almost not the case that Buddha made it simple for them. It's that he didn't make it simple for them, and they took it the wrong way. That's what the whole book is about, okay? But you're kind of getting into, so what's the difference between a higher school and a lower school? Is not a difference in what the Buddha presented. It's a difference in how they took it, okay? So then you can say that the schools were invented by people who didn't understand the schools, okay? Then he says, while we're on the subject of schools, he makes a very clumsy segue. He goes to another subject because he wants to, because he just wrote a book about it. Okay? And he says, that reminds me of the difference between the two Madhyamika schools, which is not at all the subject of Nagarjuna's text. Okay? And he says, it's a parallelism maybe? Maybe the differences between the two Madhyamika schools, how they developed, is similar to the way that the differences between the higher schools and the lower schools develop. But that's the only excuse you could ever give him. So, that reminds me of the differences. And I've heard people give 10 differences. One of them being, does the opponent and us have do we see the object that we're fighting about in the same way, Minami restaurant, or do we not? Okay? And then he says, well, let's go look at the opinions of lower middle way starter, Baba Viveka, and the higher middle way great defender, Chandakirti. Let's look at how they thought about this topic. Now, I'll throw another wrench into this discussion. If I say to my wife, if I say, look, when I'm arguing with my wife about should we go to the Japanese restaurant, okay? When I say let's talk about the Japanese restaurant, I'm not talking about one that serves good food or one that serves bad food. Why?
Because we're trying to agree.
Because we're supposed to argue about the same thing.
General.
So let's just talk about the restaurant in general without characterizing it one way or the other.
Right.
Can we agree that we both see it the same way? If I say, let's talk about the Japanese restaurant, am I kind of saying, without deciding right now whether it's good or bad. Am I kind of saying that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I am.
100%, yeah.
That's Baba Viveka's position.
Ah.
I'm just setting you up because it's uncomfortable.
It's Bhagavad Gita.
It sounds pretty good, and I expressed it myself last time
This
we
is
met.
where you get the 50-50 thing from when you teach this.
Well, I'm just saying, the guy,
Yeah.
it sounds like a reasonable position.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about Bimala.
Is it okay, I'm just going to say,
Yeah.
if I read it correctly, and maybe I'm wrong again, but it seems like the argument is that Baba Viveka thought when a Buddhist tells a non-Buddhist that sound is not eternal,
Yeah.
they got to talk about sound. The Chichen, what they're talking about is in sound in general,
Just-
before we talk about eternal or not.
Come on, the sound that's out there. Or something like
Just sound without getting into specifics.
that. Yeah.
And
Seems
Baba
fair.
Viveka says that's what Chichen means.
Right.
And I'll find you a part in his text that says if the two opponents don't agree on the Chichen, it's already a bad reason.
Sure.
It's in the list of bad reasons.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, so it should be correct to say that the two opponents should be talking about the same thing to have an argument about it. But that seems to be Baba Viveka's position, which is criticized by Chandakirti. So what's Chandakirti want to say?
That there isn't even
They
one of
can't hold the
those.
same-
Or that.
They can't even hold the same general?
And I'll throw another wrench in there, and then I'll make you go home for 2 days. Right.
That's a curse right there.
Is it possible that a tsema, is it possible that both opponents have a tsema about the Chichen, and one of them is mistaken?
Yeah.
But that's what you're trying to elicit,
Yeah.
correct? In the other person.
I'll say it again. Is it possible that two people who are supposed to be talking about the same thing or they can't have a valid argument, that one of them sees jar, but in an incorrect way, but it's still accurate for our purposes?
Yeah.
I suppose that's what Chandrakirti
There's
is
only a
going to
very-
go with.
He's going that way.
Tricky way to do it.
Okay? Okay? Therefore, Chandakirti goes to the position that he has to say, Trulwe Sema Yu.
Yeah. There is a mistaken state of perception.
Sarda Milue,
A fresh and unerring one.
which is Tulwa.
An unerring mistaken perception.
Yeah!
Yeah.
Now you don't understand anything.
Can we pray so these guys can get to their quiz?
Okay, got it?
Yeah.
That's what the argument's going to come down to.
I just don't want to make
Okay?
them late.
Fundamentally, when I argue with you about the cup and you never heard the pen, are we talking about the same thing?
No.
We are, according to Chandakirti.
Whoa.
Or maybe not.
Sashi.
Pugi Joshing Meto Tram Rira Bingshi Ninde Gempadi Sangye Shindu Mite Uwargi Joku Namda Shingla Chuparsho Idam Guru Radha Mandala Kamyatayami
Kewadi.
Di Kewo Kun Selam Yeshe Tsotsok Shing Selam Yeshe Le Chungwe Damba Kunyi Tobar Shok
2 minutes, so you better don't even put your. You're probably right. Yeah.
I don't know.
The floor is cold.
I don't work there.
If it was a Tibetan monk down